Is discussed in the program. The station does not guarantee the results of any investments made by a listener to this program.
The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush is sponsored by the Word on Wealth Radio Network.
This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now,
you're live.
Happy Wednesday. I love Wednesdays. Hi, everybody. This is Gary Quackenbush on the Word on Wealth. Why do I love Wednesdays? Because that's the day that we have Ken Pecus from Pecus Group at eXp Realty. He comes on. Yeah, he sells houses and he sells buildings and businesses and all that stuff. But this guy knows everything you want to know about the market. And we have him on the show today. We have him on Wednesdays. Ken, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Gary. The sunshine today. That's our normal weather report to start out with. So I'm good.
I know. I love getting back to the regular San Diego weather report. How is it today? Sunny. It was nice. It was actually sunny at my office. I went to, sadly, a funeral this morning, and it was sunny and raining like crazy. And I thought, that's just confusing, but it's okay. It's just confusing.
Everything is confusing. Everything is confusing. So sun and rain works. The Fed is confusing, but I think they've finally admitted today that they're confused.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And see, that's the thing. That's why we have you, Kenny, because when, Fed comes out, it's this big thing, the Powell's out there going, okay, here's this big thing. We're going to do this. Things are great and all that. So 0.25%, 0.25, 25 basis points, whatever they call it. Tell us about that announcement. I mean, what happens? Does it shake the market up? Do people go like, oh, good, I can buy my house now? How does this affect us? Talk about it.
Okay, so I think if you've been following it, you probably have realized that almost all markets kind of priced that in. I think everybody who was gambled that there was probably going to be a 0.25% raise. I mean, 0.25%, 25 basis points raise. And because coming up on this last week, it kept going up from 70% to 80% to whatever the aggregate average in terms of pricing in a 0.25% rate. So I don't think anything is going to happen today other than the securities market, meaning, Wall Street is going to react badly because they were just hoping that all the bank stuff, is going to cause the Fed not just to fully pause. But I think that was just unrealistic. It was impractical. And if they did that, the Fed would then be kind of admitting there's a bigger problem in the banking system. And I don't think they had that choice. So I think the 0.25 point was a safe thing.
Yeah. And
Wall Street, of course, is not going to like it. So I haven't looked at it, but I anticipate that the Dow's not going to be great today. But whatever. Is it down today? Yeah. So they react to that.
Yeah, and that's a reaction. And the way the news cycle does it is they do the Jerome Powell announcement, and then right afterwards they do the announcement on the Dow is down or whatever, but S&P. But the thing is, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I think that we as a society, I mean, here we just overreact to stuff like that because it's like if you don't hear that it happens, I mean. I got up today, did the weather, I walk, I exercise, I do my thing, I come to the office, it's raining, I put on a rain jacket or I get wet for a few seconds, the sun comes out, it doesn't come out, whatever, I'm doing my thing, I'm calling clients, I'm doing my thing. And it's like, the Fed funds rate comes out and they go, it's 0.25. I go, okay, whatever, my clients are still coming in. I'm still, nothing really changes. It's like you have to be in an industry that's really affected by it. But I think people just get really panicky about the news. This comes out and they go, oh my gosh, right. Inflation must be going crazy. No, 0.25%, that's not a big deal.
I think there was 7 words in their statement because I read through the statement and everything. And listen, I think there was 7 key words in his statement this time that was different, where I was kind of joking about where the Fed is admitting they don't know what the heck is going on. Mm-hmm. But they changed in the last number of announcements, last few months, they've always had something at the end that indicates that they're probably planning to raise again, right? They're planning to raise the rates again. Mm-hmm. They'll give they'll give an indication that the rates are probably going to keep going up to their target or whatever. This time they changed the wording ever so slightly, and I wrote those words down. It says some additional policy firming may be appropriate. So that, to me, 7 great words to say, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to watch this and we're just going to react as you do.
That's funny. It's like, what would be the opposite of saying that? We're actually thinking in our something sloppy might happen. It's like, I don't know. It's like we're not firming up on the economy. Some additional slovenliness of the economy might cause us to respond differently tomorrow. Maybe it's like,
but we don't want to look wrong if we say something definitive right now, and that's why we're not going to say anything definitive right now.
He's the most powerful person on the planet. It must be just so satisfying. It's like people, they're holding their breath because it's like Jerome Powell's going to speak. He moves up to the microphone and people are going, oh, what's going to happen? 0.25%, and we may do additional framing in the future. That's exactly what we expected. Oh no! Like, no. It's really what we expected. Okay, we're good. Oh, that's funny. Anyway,
Exactly.
Ken, talking to Kenny
good.
Pecus
I
of the
think-
Pecus Group, 619-977-8419. We talk about this stuff, and some of it is really technical. I'm fascinated by it because if you're in the market to buy or sell a home, you've got to call Ken Pecus at the Pecus Group. Okay. His super easy way to get a hold of him is his cell phone, 619-977-8419. And I am a witness that even if he's on vacation in Argentina, Kenny answers his phone. That's insane, but that's Kenny, 619-977-8419. Okay. So here is, there's a news headline in the Union Tribune. It's funny when you send it to me, you say, oh no, this announcement in the UT. Well, I have kids that live in Utah, and every time I say Utah, I go, how does he know the market in Utah? This guy's like all over the place. And I went, oh, that's right, Union Tribune. So are we ready to talk about the Union Tribune? Because 2 minutes. We got to talk about investment properties, multifamily condos, multi-units. I want to talk about all that stuff for sure. And I think let's start it by talk a bit about the Union Tribune announcement they made. I mean, it says home prices in county down 2.6% over same time in 2022. Like, okay, how does that really affect us?
Right. Okay. So there's so much to talk about. So let's just hit that headline real fast.
Yeah.
And we'll move on from it because we've talked about it before. But once again, the Union Tribune, it's not a bad story, and meaning that it's just what they choose for headlines. Mm-hmm. And so in that headline, they once again, not even the headline, the first sentence or two, they said, if you bought a home last year, you might possibly have that home worth less this year. I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. And that is such a misleading thing to tell people, that 1 minute first paragraph of news articles, and won't read through the whole thing, because we know people don't read all the way through those news articles.
Right.
So once again, it's like our conversations before, it's median price. And there is no secret. At the end of last year, and even at the beginning of this year, the high-end home sales have dropped off in Southern California. So if you are not buying 3 million, 4 million, 10 million, or even above 2 million, there's a good indication that the median price is going to drop. That just means lower priced houses have been selling. That's all that median price. It does not imply that there's actual intrinsic value in a property that has been lost.
Oh, that's why we have Kenny Pecus here on the radio with us. We're going to be back. Ken's phone number, 619-977-8419. We'll be back in just a minute with more Ken Pecus.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855 500 Trust. You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. News though, you probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. Learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com. Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, our listeners are asking about trust disputes and whether or not they'll actually get the inheritance they're expecting.
I think that's a scary thing for most people because they feel like, if I ask my successor trustee, hey, where's my inheritance? You kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being like rude or whatever, inconsiderate. But I'm telling you, if time goes on, if it's been like 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, that's too long to have heard nothing. You're supposed to hear fairly soon, like within a couple of months after someone's passed, you should be hearing from that successor trustee. And if you're not, I think there's an issue we need to address. So it's not like we're going to go screaming in there, filing lawsuits. We kind of use gentle nudges like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Successor trustee, we kind of want to help you do your job, and we help beneficiaries kind of get things straightened out.
Call or click to request your free initial consultation. GQLaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQLaw.com.
What aren't we?
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQLaw.com, 855-500.
All right, welcome to Word on Wealth. You're here with Gary Quackenbush and Ken Pecus, founder of the Pecus Group. Ken's phone number is 619-977-8419. If you have any real estate needs, if you're thinking of buying, thinking of selling, whether it's a single family home, multifamily dwelling, or even commercial properties, give Ken a call. And his team, they're incredible. I have personal experience with them. I have family experience with them. He's been my family's real estate agent for a long time, and he's the best. Ken Pecus, 619-977-8419. All right, we have resolved. Fed came out and announced the rate hike of 0.25%, and then he said, well, we may massage those numbers sometime in the future. We're not sure. We'll let you know later. But off of that, we got the Union Tribune saying, there's a chance that the house that you bought a year ago might be worth less than it was last year because the median price is down, but median price really doesn't do anything with your own personal homes. But that being aside, okay, I want to talk about, multi-units. Sometimes they make more sense. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to go over with you, with our listeners today, Ken, is talk about, condos, multi-units. What is the difference in buying investment properties versus single family residence versus what you're going to invest in, and then maybe aim towards multifamily units. Talk to us about that.
Okay, great. So first thing, just to finish up that Fed thing, for people that are just buying houses and condos that they're going to live in, I think today is a non-starter for anything, meaning nothing is going to change. Rates are going to be where they are. I think everything is priced in this Fed. So rates might go down a little bit, like, whatever, they might go up a little bit, but it's pretty much going to be the same environment. So if you're going to buy your home, keep going. I don't think today makes any difference on what's going on. Just keep on after it. But like you've brought up, let's talk about investment property, because the word of the day right now, I think through the entire world, that would be a word of the day is safe harbor. And safe harbor is where do I put my money that it's going to be safe? Sort of like in a storm, right? Where are you going to put it? Well, personally, I think one of the best safe harbors in the universe is to put your money in real property. And that's because everybody needs shelter above their head. They need a place to live. And so if you think of that as and where you're investing, it is just one of the best safe harbor places, because values might go up or down a little bit, but the bottom line is our civilization here is not transitioning to not needing housing. I don't see that ever happening, right?
Yeah, that's right. But wait a minute, I'm going to live in a drone.
Okay, let me know how it's going to go.
Well, that's the thing in San Diego. I still have people. I literally had a person, I was talking to a person just yesterday or Monday, talk to people all the time. And she was literally saying, the San Diego housing market is crashing and it will continue to crash and values are going to go down. Just wait a little while. You'll see values are going to be so low that it's going to be, you're going to be able to buy real estate for a deal. And I went, I'm sorry. I have lived in San Diego for 64 years. Okay. And since I can remember anything about value, it has always gone up. I mean, it's crazy. My mom and dad bought a house for $135,000 and sold it for $250,000. I bought a house for $173,000 and I sold it for $630,000. It's like my dad bought a house, at Coronado Island for $168,000 and sold it for $2.5 million. It's like, over the long term, real estate is we're in Southern California. There's a limited amount of space for people to come and enjoy this freaking awesome place to live. We are by the desert. We are by the mountains. We're by the beach. I can go to snow in 45 minutes. It's just, my gosh, why would anybody think the values are going to drop here? It's like,
well, at any given moment they could drop a little bit or whatever, or you could have like a 2008 to 10 whatever, but if you just hold on the property, it's going that direction.
right.
So if you buy it as a safe harbor investment, so there's a lot of people right now that want to pull their money out of different investments because they're not comfortable. But then so you look at property. So then the question is, which is the right property? Which is the right investment property that fits your profile? So that's what we can talk about here for a few minutes. Is it a condo? Should I buy an investment condo? Should I buy a house, and then rent the house out? And should I buy, I've heard about duplexes, or how about apartment buildings? And so you have to approach all of those from a thought process about what you as an investor have available and want to invest. Okay, because here's the overall premise. The more units that you get on a single piece of land. So think about this, whether it's a condo, then a house, or a duplex, or a 10-unit apartment building. Each time you're adding an extra unit to that same piece of land, you're diluting the cost of the land in your return on investment. So if you have a house on a big piece of property, then the land takes a whole bunch of value, part of it, and the house generates some income. But if you take that house off and now you have 4 units on the property, not only are you diversifying where your income is coming from, you're minimizing the cost of the land per unit. So in a very simple ABC way, the more units you can put on a piece of land, it's always going to end up being better when it comes to return on investment. That's why your ultimate goal in life is to potentially have apartment buildings, or why a lot of very wealthy people you know and don't know that you know them make a ton of money because they've over the course of time, they've moved their investments into bigger and bigger apartment buildings, and into, even into partnerships. So why don't you just buy an apartment building to start out with? Well, that's usually because it requires a much higher down payment. And because when you go between 1 to 4 units, there's certain kind of financing that you can get, which effectively keeps your down payment at about 25%, maybe 30%. And then they'll give you a loan. The lenders will give you a loan. When you cross that threshold of 4 units and you go to 5 units and bigger, you have to now get what they call a commercial loan. And it's a whole different ballgame. And in general, in San Diego and even in Southland, California here, versus some of the other states, a lot of times you need anywhere between 35 to 50%, if not even 60% down. And, so once again, it comes down to, hey, Ken, I've got $250,000 and I'd like to buy a investment property, right?
Right.
And then you tell me with the $250,000, I want for it to pay for itself. So I don't want to put any money in it, but I want the rents to pay the mortgage on it. And that way, after a certain number of years, the tenants are paying the mortgage down and it's hopefully going to be worth more. And that's how I want to build my investment. That's one way to look at it. There's another way to look at it and say, hey, Ken, I've got $250,000 down and I can't have any mortgage on it. And I just need that income every single month. And so we'd look and say, 250,000, I wonder if we can find a little condo for you, because in that way, you're paying you're buying it, you're in San Diego, so you're not really going to find a house for 250,000, but you could find a little condo somewhere in the county, no problem there. And then every single month you're going to get for lack of a better word, a dividend, right? It's in the rents and you're going to get that. And so you're going to build value that way. Or you can do something in the middle, which is like where you get the duplex or the quads or something like that. So it all starts with how much money you have to begin with. And then what people do is, let's say they buy a little condo or they buy a little house and they go whatever. Over the course of 5 years, all of a sudden their $250,000 equity, when combined with general appreciation and combined with paying the loan down, all of a sudden they now have like $400,000 in equity or $450,000, which is going to allow them potentially to buy a larger property because now they have more down payment on it. So the market creates a larger down payment, which opens more doors for that investor to keep moving up. And I've done this with a whole number of clients, over a couple of decades at a time. So you can really build up massive wealth if you stay consistent. But it all starts with how much income, how much money do you have to invest in to start? Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah, it really does. Okay. And so that kind of brings me to this, a lot of people just think and they go, I don't know, and should I? And I don't know what to do with my money. And I'm going to watch more YouTube videos. They really do. It's like, I watched this YouTube video about Vanguard. I watched my YouTube video about buying and selling real property. I go, guys, why do you do that to yourself? There are, I think it's something like almost 10 million minutes of YouTube videos are uploaded every day. So I'm sure it's all super valuable, but it's insane. If you're going to do this, call Ken. 619-977-8419. Talk to him. Just exactly this. Ken, I've got X amount of money. I want some dividends. What can I do? Because you're going to either talk to your financial advisor and say, hey, I've got $200,000. What can I get in dividends? They're going to go, Walmart is a B class stock. You might be able to get a couple bucks off that. What about earnings? Well, they're taxable. Talk to a real estate person. We're in Southern California. Ken's the man, 619-977-8419. Ken, talk to us a little bit about the question I have, like on multi-units, like you're looking at, duplexes, tris and quads. Those are still considered a regular non-commercial loan, right? Are you looking at to get like a fourplex in San Diego? Are we talking that you have to pay like $2 million or are there things around the $1 million mark, or what's kind of a general idea?
Oh, absolutely. San Diego has awesome neighborhoods, like anything from neighborhoods close to like San Diego State, right? Those are some of the best neighborhoods. El Cajon,
90 seconds.
East County, South Bay, like National City, Chula Vista, all of these neighborhoods have multi-unit zoning. And so if you can get 2 to 4 units anywhere between maybe a low of about 700,000, maybe 650 if it needs a lot of work, and it can go, and you can get 3 and 4 units all the way up around $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million. So effectively, if you have something between 200,000 and 400,000, there's a lot of opportunity.
About a minute.
Less than 200,000, then you just adjust on what you're trying to go. You go maybe away from the larger multi-units or whatever.
Okay.
Type of-
Right. And the reason I like doing this with you is because it really gets my mind going. I know I have a lot of listeners that are inheriting money. They're not sure what to do. It's like, where do I put it? And these are the things, the investment opportunities that I think people really need to explore. Ken, are you afraid to have somebody call you and say, hey, explore this with me? Or are you going to say, no, come in with your money and just let me get going?
There's something for absolutely everyone. It really can work, no matter how small your money is.
Absolutely. You guys, Ken Pecus, the Pecus Group at eXp Realty, 619-977-8419. I really couldn't recommend anybody any higher for you're buying and selling real estate. If you're in it, you're thinking about it, you're on your way, if you've inherited money, 619-977-8419, call Ken Pecus. Ken, awesome to have you. I'll talk to you again next week. Thanks, man.
Always a pleasure. Take care.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com. Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
You're live.
Welcome to the Word on Wealth, friends. Good to have you along. We love doing this. We are here every Tuesday on these stations that you're listening to. Also, it gets the show gets put into a podcast format and put up on podcast, which is on all of the major podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. It gets put up on that. It's called The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. And you can, if you remember the date, if you want to remember what Ken was talking about today, it's just remember the day, go onto the podcast and you can see it, and you'll see a picture of him, and the podcasts are there. So we're doing the podcast so that you have these things available to you later. Also um, on YouTube, I'm recording it. There's a camera in my face so that there's something to see. It's not, that exciting to watch a radio show. It's kind of funny. It's like, I don't know, watching cement dry. I don't know, but watch a radio show. You can see me on the air with my guests, and that's pretty fun. But it's on YouTube, so you just go to GQ Law, that's where my YouTube channel is, or you can also search Gary Quackenbush and find the YouTube channel there. And it's got all the shows. You just go through and see which ones you think you want to listen to, click through. We get a lot of views. A lot of people are watching them, which is really good and helpful. Our goal is to push information out. I had an interesting experience this morning. A friend of mine, it's basically a family member, extended family member. It would be an in-law member. The family passed away. In my opinion, he was young because he wasn't that much older than me. It's like too young to pass, but we went to his funeral this morning. It was so well done. The family was super well represented. His kids read a eulogy, basically a story of his life that he had prepared. And I really loved it. I felt like I was in this sacred experience, learning about this person's life that I've only known briefly. I know one of his daughters pretty well. I know his daughter's in-laws very well. And it was really a privilege to be there and be in this experience. And you kind of feel, you know how it is. You go sometimes to a funeral and you're not family. You're not even in-law family. You're friends to in-law family, but you feel close to them because some of the family members are just really a part of your life. And you feel kind of like the proverbial fly on the wall where you get to experience it. And it's just really nice. It was very pleasant and inspirational, and made me want to do better. And I've never been to a funeral I don't walk away and say, you know what, I can do better. I can be more like that person. This guy was really nice. People loved him and cared about him, and he served people, and he took care of people that had needs and friends, and it was a really neat experience. And after that, I had a friend of mine come up to me, and he had said to me, he said, talking about my law practice and what I do with the estate planning. He said, it's interesting. He's an attorney, a young guy. And he said, Gary, it's interesting that what you do as an attorney, the stuff that you provide actually helps people. It's just really neat that you can do stuff that people really need and that they individually enjoy, and it can help them. They specifically referring to estate plans. And that was his take on reading some of the documents that we prepared. And I thought that was really neat because with me, the thing that I have in my life is I believe I was put here on earth. The reason I was, became an attorney, and the way it all happened was just really weird. The way I became an attorney, I never planned to be a lawyer. The way it came about, and then the way I kind of took up this mantle that I'm going to be provide essential legal services simply, affordably. That's our motto, if you will, our purpose statement at GQ Law. And then my son told me, this is a while ago, he said, you know what, Dad? He said, you're like a people's lawyer. What do you mean by that? He said, well, you actually help people. You actually do things that people need, and it's helpful to them because when they get services and it's done right, it's helpful and it makes life easier and better. And I appreciate that. That's, why else am I doing a radio show? It's, to do a show an hour a day, 5 days a week, takes a lot of time. I'm not a professional at radio showing, and, I have to prepare every day and do the best I can to put materials that seem to be relevant. I talk to people every single day, and I would love to just talk about my interviews every day. I would interview this person, interview that person, and talk about their cases, but that's personal and private, and we're being very careful to not breach any confidentialities. So if you have your story and you'd love to talk to me about it, I'd love to hear from you. on the air today, 888-344-1170. I'd love to hear from you in my office. And that's you can go to my website and sign up for an appointment there. The website is gqlaw.com. While you're there, there's a few things that are for free. You have the book called Living Trust Basics. It's a short book. You can get in outline format. It helps you understand the basics of living trust, how wills and trusts work together with power of attorneys, things like that. What's their benefit, advantages, disadvantages, positive, negatives. It's done in an outline format. So it's an easy read. It's not a storybook. There's no pictures, but it's not a long book. It's not just a bunch of paragraphs. It is an outline format fleshed out so that you can, it helps you kind of understand the basics of estate planning, because that's what I'm all about. I want to teach. I want you to understand the basics. I want you to understand enough so that when you make that decision, it's your decision, not mine. I'm not talking you into it. I'm not selling you something that you don't need. I'm simply showing you what you have for choices and decisions. You make those decisions. Decisions. All right. So, frequently I get questions about property taxes. And I think let's talk about taxes specifically. When someone passes away, and has real property. So the guy dies, he has real property. Okay, we are concerned about 4 different types of taxes. We're concerned about inheritance tax. We're concerned about estate tax, property taxes, and there might be some capital gains. I don't know, but there's just these different taxes that we're trying to deal with. Now, after someone passes away and you inherit their property, if you sold it the day after they passed away, your tax consequences are not the same as theirs. Okay, because if they sold it, they'd have to show, they probably would take a capital gain. They'd have to pay taxes on the sale because they've owned the property for a long, long time and has all this appreciated value. But when you inherit it, it starts over. So if you sell it the day after someone passes away, there is no income tax. There's no capital gains tax. And as far as the wealth transfer tax, the inheritance tax, there's no inheritance tax unless the amount that is in that person's estate exceeds $12.6 million. So estates less than $12.6 million pass tax-free to the beneficiaries. So those are some considerations with math and inheriting property. Many of us hang on to, while we're alive, we want to hang on to our rental properties because they bring us income, just like we were talking with Ken Pecus of Pecus Group in the first part of our show. We want real property because it brings us rental, right? Rental income. Those are like our dividends. And the rental income is great. But every year on my tax return, I get to deduct some of the cost of that building. It's called depreciation. I can deduct it. I get a tax benefit for it. And I must deduct it because even if I don't take advantage of the deduction, it's still going to reduce the basis of the property so that eventually when I sell it, I have to capture all the basis and pay taxes on it. Okay. So I hold on to my real property for a long time, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And when I die, my rental property is very highly appreciated. I may have paid $200,000 for it, but it's worth $800,000. So if I sold it, I would pay the difference between what I paid for it and what I sold it for. That's $600,000. But over that 25 years, I have depreciated it to zero. So literally, my gain is 0 to 800. My gain is $800,000, and I pay capital gains tax on that. Okay. If instead I die and my son sells the property, there's zero taxes. There's zero capital gains. So they have to really think about it. I've got this property because it has this huge big gain in tax penalty for selling it. So I don't sell it. I want the rents. There's a capital gains problem if I sell it. My property taxes are low. But when I die and my son gets it, the property taxes are going to go up. It's going to be reassessed. So the property taxes are going to be based on $800,000. There's not going to be any capital gains tax, but the property taxes are going up based on the value of the property. And so now you're going to have to raise the rents to be able to make it so it's a good investment. So a lot of it is math. as you're doing your estate planning, what I really try to get people to not do is lock your beneficiaries into something that's going to cost them money. I mean, an increase in property taxes is not the end of the world. It just means less profit, but still there's profit. So teach your kids about the math. Don't just write them into your trust and say, when I die, this kid gets a fourplex. Get them into the fourplex now. Get them to be the property manager. Teach them how it works. Teach them why real property. Make it so that when you die, they will not sell it because they don't want to, because they don't believe it's a good idea. Got to teach your kids that stuff and start small. Coming up next, we're going to talk about buying siblings out of real estate.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855.
You're live.
Back again. Here we are on the Word of Wealth, sharing all the information that we believe that you need to set up a proper estate plan and to help people who have estates that need to be distributed. The process, after someone passes away, they may have a trust, let's say, for example, and the trust guides the successor trustee in their duties to distribute the property, give the property away, gift the property, whatever the instructions are in that trust. The successor trustee's job is to carry out those instructions. The trust administration process is the process that literally instructs the successor trustee on how to do that. So there are some requirements of the trust administration that are not something that's going to be written in the trust. It's just something you have to learn or know how to do or delegate. Delegate it to an attorney, delegate it to a tax professional, delegate it to a bookkeeper. For some duties you should not be doing on your own. And why should you do it on your own? There's money going to be distributed to beneficiaries. The IRS is watching to make sure it's done right. if there's any taxes to the state of California, they're going to be watching. You want to get it done right. You got beneficiaries that are going to be receiving that money, and you have a really high responsibility as the successor trustee to do your job and do it right. And I hate to say it, but the bottom line is, if you don't do your job right and it costs money to the estate, that's your problem. Okay, that's the successor trustee's problem. If you cost money to the estate, to the trust, by something that you did that was a bad choice or bad decision, then that could come out of your share, or you could be charged that, where you have to pay it out of your pocket. And that would be awful. It's hard enough to be a successor trustee, but then to have somebody come in after you to try to take money from you because you agreed to handle it, but you did it wrong, or you messed it up. Let's just fix it. If you're a successor trustee, please do not do it on your own. Find a competent attorney that has done it before, that knows what they're doing, that you like and you're comfortable with, and hire them to help you do your successor trustee job right. I'm happy to do it. You can call me 855-500-TRUST. Let's get a free consultation. Let's figure it out. Okay. Sometimes in the trust administration process, the successor trustee has to make a decision regarding property. Like, let's just talk about a house. So let's say there are 3 siblings, and one of the siblings decide they want to buy the family home because it's an average size house. It's probably a decent rental. It needs some, fixing up and some things done to it so that it'd be a better rental. So you got to make it more generic and not so fancy sometimes. But one of the kids that's inheriting from mom and dad wants to buy out the other ones. Okay, what are some of the considerations? We first need to consider the cost of doing it. How, what are they going to have to pay? How do you determine the value of the house? Do you just go on Zillow or Redfin or Google home prices? Do you just do that and come up with a value? You could, or you could hire a professional real estate appraiser, and they may come up with a number higher than you thought or lower than you thought. If it's lower than you thought and you're the one doing the buying out, awesome. If it's higher than you thought, you might want to get another appraiser. But what you need to do, if you're going to buy it directly from your siblings, you and your siblings need to come up to a conclusion, to a decision on what the house is worth. Like, what's the number that you're going to use? You can agree to anything. You're just trying to make sure that your siblings are taken care of, and so are you. You don't want to be the one getting the raw end of the deal. You don't want to give them the raw end of the deal either. You want to make it so it's a fair deal and that they all have enough information to believe it. If you have one of your siblings that's saying, I'm not doing it without a written appraisal from a real estate appraiser, then get one. That's fine. It's all part of the agreement. It's all part of the deal. You can do that. Once you establish a value, then we got to look at the considerations. Like, if you establish a value, what are you going to get? Okay, when you inherit the house, you're not going to have to pay taxes on it because the tax basis increased the fair market value at the date of death. What are you going to have to pay, though? You're going to have to pay an increased property tax, because unless you live there, property taxes are going to go. They're going to reset to fair market value at the date of death. If you lived there and made it your principal residence immediately after your parents passed away, that's the rule, then you could get a tax exemption. The property taxes will only increase on the part that you're buying from your siblings. So if it's you inherited a third of the house and now you make it your primary residence, the third that you inherited will stay at a lower property tax basis. The 2/3 that you're buying from your siblings, either through financing or through other distributions, that 2/3 is not going to as inherited property. You're purchasing the property. So the property tax basis on that 2/3 is going to go up to current market value. And this is tricky. You got to deal with the county assessor on that. Jordan Marks, the county assessor, he has a team of people that will walk you through how it works. But the property taxes are going up on the 2/3 that you are buying from your siblings. Okay. The other way is if there's enough money in the estate where you can simply take title to the property, and there's enough money to pay an equal amount to the siblings, like it's an $800,000 property, and there's another 800,000 for each of your siblings in the trust, then you can just take title. And if it's your principal residence of your parents, then you can move in and make your principal residence. And the potential is that if you do it right, you can get an exclusion on the whole thing, and the property tax basis will remain low. Okay, but Prop 920 is unavoidable. If it's a rental property that you're inheriting, then the taxes are going up. Period. Are there any exceptions? No. Do you know of any exceptions? No. If I called Jordan Marks, the new county assessor, and asked him if there's exceptions, he's going to say no. There just aren't. That's Prop 19. That's what happened. 19, Prop 56, Prop 13. They're all still alive. They just function a little bit differently. So the thing with buying out siblings, the reason I want you to have an agreement, a written agreement and understanding, is because after you buy the house, if the property values shoot up, your siblings are going to go, well, that stinks. You know, you got more value than we did. We got cashed out and it's worth more now. That doesn't seem fair. Okay, if the opposite happened and you get your share, and then in the title transfer, anything of that, all of a sudden the price plummets. Now you're going to be saying, oh, wait a minute, this is not worth it. The house is worth less. And so 1/3, my 1/3, you know, those are all things that are going to happen. But like Ken Pecus said in the last half hour of our show, is it doesn't matter. Those are just numbers. I mean, who's to say that it was worth more or less? Who's to say the appraiser was right or wrong? Who's to say that you guys agreed on a number that was too high or too low? Who's going to say where real property values are tomorrow? Nobody. It's real property. Get into it. If you wanted real property, if that's what you want to do the buyout, work with it. You know, if you got to move into it, or you got to rent it out and move into it, whatever, just deal with it. It's fine. It's an investment and it pays dividends. So real property's good. You have a chance to inherit it, and it's a good deal, fair deal, do it. If it's going to make everybody in the family mad because they can't figure out the value, and you think the value that they're saying is too high, and they're saying the value that you want is way too low, and you're going to argue about it, just inherit the money, take the money, and go buy another piece of property. Call Ken Pecus. You know, don't worry about trying to make sure you get mom and dad's rental property or house that they lived in. Just sell it, get your percentage because there's no taxes on it, and go and buy something of your own. Call Ken Pecus, 619-977-8419. Ken at kenpecus.com. Pecus is spelled P-E-C-U-S. All right. A concern I do have is waiting too late. And I've done whole seminars on waiting too late.
2 minutes.
It's frustrating, but how many times do I see this? Wife comes in, says, I need an estate plan. Hey, where's your husband? He's home. How's he doing? Terrible. Got Parkinson's. How's he functioning? If he does okay in the mornings. Does he know where he is? Mm-hmm. Does he know he's married to you? Uh-huh. Does he know that you have a house? No. Okay. How do we do a trust for a husband and wife who own a property together and the husband is incapacitated? They have no power of attorney. They have no will. They have no trust. We've got a big problem because in California, if there are two people on the title to the house, we need both of those people to sign everything to do with the house. We waited too late. Husband is incapacitated. Is there a power of attorney for your incapacitated husband that will let you refinance or sell the house or even put it into a trust? No, nothing was done. Okay.
1 minute.
Now what you have to do is decide, is it necessary to do any transactions with your husband's name on it? If the answer is yes, it's time to get a conservatorship. If he's incapacitated, you need a conservatorship, which is like a court-appointed power of attorney over an incapacitated person. It's like a guardianship over an adult. And if you're going to need one, they can take 6 months to get a conservatorship. It is super slow. You can get it done in about 2 or 3 months. If you're in a big fat hurry, you can get it done perfectly. But usually it's going to take between 2 and 6 months. So if your husband is incapacitated, you don't have a trust or will or power of attorneys, get a conservatorship, get it now. If you have to refinance a house, if you have to sell it, you have to be able to do it without his signature. So incapacity, big deal. It is a big deal, and I need to talk to you about it. 855-500-TRUST. Get your estate plans done. Start out with the basics. If you don't have anything, let's get it going. If you need it amended, let's get it going. Let's talk. 855-500-TRUST. My Listeners get a free initial consultation, 855-500-TRUST. All right, guys, we'll talk to you tomorrow with Anthony Rice, talking all about money here on the Word on Wealth.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995, with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future.
The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the views of Salem Media Group or its sponsors.